super excited to have you. A lot of our topics stem from conversations that we're having with our clients at REV, and this one that we're going to talk about is very universal to most people that come to REV, whether it's something that's kind of minor or actually very, very extreme. And this is also an essential human requirement for living. So we're going to be talking about sleep, and we're super excited to dive in.
What were those 4 requirements again? It's eating, drinking,
sleeping, pooping, and drinking.
Gotta,
water.
Gotta poop.
Really, these are essential requirements. So a lot of people, when they come in, sleep is often spoken about, whether it's, again, like I said, something really extreme like insomnia for years. And then if anyone's had any sort of disturbance in sleep, which watching this now, you're probably like, oh yeah, I've definitely had moments of that. You know how it throws off your day and days after tremendously. So when, even if it's like insomnia for long periods of time, it ripples through years. Or if it's starting something really small, it's something that we can deepen the quality of it now and really help to heal it now so that it doesn't get worse and worse and worse. And let's talk about why it's even important too.
Before I do that, sleep is a topic that is multifaceted. There is not just one answer, one thing that'll fix all sleep issues. We've seen people over the last 8 years here in Chattanooga, and many people share the troubles and challenges with sleep. And it can be a very emotional thing because sleep, as she said, is everything. And there's multiple factors when it comes to it. We were talking about this off camera. It's being able to fall asleep. It's okay if you can fall asleep, waking up multiple times so they're not being able to get back to sleep. And then the actual quality of sleep, are you actually getting healing sleep? So that being said, today's conversation is not going to be the end all be all, but it's going to give you different insights, understanding of why sleep's important, why we should really focus on maximizing and optimizing it like we do our nutrition, like we do our movement, because it's another aspect, huge aspect of our healing journey. And then really just setting up little things here and there that you're essentially becoming your own test subject, seeing what works well for you, and knowing there's going to be ebbs and flows along the way. So I just wanted to frame that conversation that way.
And let's talk about sleep. So just to really make it simple, and I know you're probably going to go into more of the science piece of it.
A little bit.
Sleeping is so important because we need to process our day. So just to make it really easy to understand, throughout our day we have everything's energy and everything's vibration. Everything we're experiencing throughout the day is something that our nervous system has to process. And so actually our time when we're sleeping is our time to process our day. And if we're not having deep, quality, nourishing, restorative sleep, we haven't processed what happened that day. And so if we're not having quality sleep, these things are built up and backed up in our system, and it throws everything off. So really quality sleep is what we really want. It's an essential component to integration and to healing.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, integration is really facilitated during those deep restorative times, whether that's through meditation, time on the table integration, and sleep is probably the most effective way because it's about 6 to 8 to 9 hours that people spend every night. Yeah. And so as she said, your nervous system being your perception system, it's how you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and that gut feeling. So everything you do, every physical, mental, emotional, and chemical experience that is out there is coming in through your nervous system. And if we have too much stuff that comes in our day, in our life, and we don't get proper sleep, we cannot heal and restore the way that we're supposed to. So yes, this is a very big topic, and we're going to get into a little bit more on how it actually works and how we begin regulating. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's dive in.
So I think the first thing to consider is the active circadian rhythms. And I was actually doing some research because I was like, what does a circadian rhythms actually come from? So circadians is from a Latin form of circa, which is meaning full circle. So it's actually based off 24-hour periods. And this is actually translated into other physiological functions within our body, how the sun comes up and then the moon comes up, right? There's this rhythm, this 24-hour period. So getting in proper rhythm for your sleep is actually vitally important to getting not only good quality sleep, but setting yourself up for the healing process.
So circadian rhythms and being in cycles and things like that. So our cycles can be thrown off by so many different things, but just to lump everything together, stress is really what throws off our cycles. Stress is the root of all disease, which within that's inflammation, all these chronic diseases within our body. But like, I think like the implementation of like artificial lights and blue light, like, you know, light bulbs, but also blue light and also stress throughout our day is like the biggest things that I feel like have like disrupted that cycle for people. Like,
I think the sympathetic and parasympathetic response is the easiest way to do it. This is an evolutionary process that we as human beings have facilitated in our own body through years of a saber-toothed tiger or a bear or something there, that fight or flight response. That is your sympathetic nervous system. So if you needed that, you could either run or fight an animal. So that was ingrained within our biology thousands of years ago. Fast forward to today, we don't have many tigers and bears and things that we have to run for our life from, but we have stress at work, stress at home, stress that we self-impose on ourselves, toxins around us. So we've talked about this many times before. There's tons of stress in our life from physical, mental, emotional, and chemical. So one of the very first things that we talk about with people where they say, hey, should I do magnesium supplementation? Should I do different stuff, melatonin, all this different stuff? And there are times and places for that, which we might even get into in this video. But the most important thing is, how is your nervous system regulating? Because if your biology has not processed things from 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, or 25 years ago, again, nervous system doesn't know if it's actually happening now or if it happened in the past. Every night when you go to bed, every day when you wake up, your biology is running this stress pattern, and we're releasing more cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine in your system. And if there is a tiger in front of you or something dangerous in front of you, your body doesn't want to go to sleep at that moment. So it's almost like tricking your mind that, hey, you need to pay attention and wake up. So there's this tension in the system.
And when cortisol is super high, which happens in a stress pattern, which is 95% of us is subconscious. So if we have these deep stress patterns and unintegrated pieces within us that are running that cortisol all the time, it's really hard to get into sleep with that, because like how our biology basically works is that when we wake up in the morning, that's when cortisol becomes the highest and serotonin, and that's kind of what shuts off that melatonin, because melatonin is happening when we're sleeping. And then throughout our day, like as the rhythm of the day, the cycle, the circadian of the sun going down, that's when cortisol goes down and turns into like melatonin. Serotonin becomes melatonin. So that's really the rhythm of it. However, but if there's a stress pattern happening all the time, which is actually most people, or not being in that parasympathetic, then our hormones are completely out of whack. So it's really hard to get back into that cycle from that place, which is inserting the importance of regulation and integration before anything.
Yeah, so I think the main focus of today's conversation is understanding, just like almost anything in life, if we put attention towards something, change can begin occurring. So I think we should jam about optimal sleep conditions and things people can start doing to create a little bit more rhythm in their life. And we have one of our first things that we talk about is that your sleep actually starts in the morning, correct? So talk about what we have learned and that what we start doing first thing when we wake up to start setting that cadence for the day.
Okay, before that though, I want to talk a little bit about like the importance of like quality sleep and how that can really ripple into your wellness and your vitality, because a lot of people are like, oh, I want more energy, I want balanced hormones, I just want to feel better. And we sometimes kind of overlook things like, you know, cultivating our sleep. Like we overlook things like really nourishing our body through what we eat or what we do or who we hang around. So like if we get really good sleep on a regular and consistent basis, through then is where inflammation markers will be lower, our hormones will be balanced. Like so many things go into play with this. So like that's like the goal here. I just want to say that before we go into our tips of like why, like what they're going to get out of it basically.
Well, I mean, it's just an overall feeling of feeling better. Overall, the body's going to function better when we are in these rhythms, and you can understand that. You know, maybe if you've had bad, poor quality sleep for a period of time, you kind of get used to it. It just kind of becomes the normal, and you kind of live your day, and then you don't really recognize that you're not getting quality sleep. But if you are in rhythm and then you go on a long flight, maybe if you're on the East Coast and you go West Coast, or maybe you had a trip, you got back late and you get out of rhythm, what do you typically feel the next day? You feel pretty crappy because you're out of that flow and that rhythm, which we're going to dive into a little bit more, but I just think it's an understanding, like people can understand when we don't get sleep, we cannot function at the levels that we are designed to. So this is a huge thing to focus on.
And something really cool actually about like our brain when we sleep, like a lot of people have like brain fog or I just don't feel clear. When we get deep restorative sleep, so we get that REM sleep, which is like the goal of all of this, that's that deep processing. But also we have glial cells in our brain that actually detox our brain. It's like these like dump zones basically. So like if we're not sleeping deeply, that's when you wake up and you feel foggy. And so if you consistently aren't sleeping, you're consistently feeling foggy and basically trying to play like catch up because your brain's not able to dump all the toxins that it's meant to every single night. So just little things like this is what I want to plant the seed for, because the more you can understand how your body is wired, the more you can connect to the vision of why it's even important to even think about and to cultivate more of it.
And I try to always come from the place of people that do have problems with sleep and they say, yeah, I've tried everything. And yeah, maybe you have tried a lot of things, and we're going to share some information. And again, just start implementing these things in your day throughout your next couple days and weeks just to see if change starts occurring. And there might be, I mean, you were just talking about someone who's had years of sleep issues. I've worked with people too that have years of sleep issues. There's sometimes that we make these changes and it works really well initially, and then it kind of backs off a little bit. But then over time, the system actually starts regulating, and then you actually create more quality sleep over time. So I think it's just important to really like frame it, like, because some people are like, there's no point. I've already tried all this stuff.
Yeah, and don't fall into the trap that if you try something for like 3 days and maybe your sleep hasn't improved yet, or with anything, don't fall into the trap that if you try something just once or twice, it doesn't work and like I'm basically just discounting it and completely throwing it out the back door. That's not how true healing happens. Like you can see more results over the long term when you are consistent. Just like stress consistently is what led to this issue today. Whatever that issue may be, if it's sleep in particular, let's listen up because we're going to go into some amazing tips that you guys can begin implementing today. But let's go back into what you said. So for me, like a quality sleep really begins in the morning. Let's not look at sleep as like, okay, it's 6 p.m., it's time for bed. Now, what do I do?
You go to bed at 6? You ain't going to bed at 6.
I'm saying the routine begins, like the evening basically begins. Don't do that. Think about sleep as first thing in the morning. Like what I said, like our hormones are basically like the thing in the background that's regulating everything and basically controlling everything. They're the response to our environment. So when we wake up first thing in the morning, what we do is we get morning sun. So getting morning sun within the first 30 to 60 minutes upon waking is what's going to let that cortisol rise naturally to where it needs to be. Not to the point where you're stuck in fight or flight. Like naturally occurring cortisol is actually really needed. That's what makes you feel like awake and alert. That's what we're looking for. And also when the cortisol goes up, that's when melatonin levels go down so you're not sleepy. Like we want this like natural rhythm to happen. When the cortisol goes up, that's also when the serotonin kicks in too. So that's morning sun for us is like we look forward to our morning sun and coffee, or I have lemon water every single morning. That is like the beginning of our day, and it's not this like rushing all of a sudden. That's going to be too much cortisol and really bad for our hormones and really bad for that night that's to come if you start your day like that. So we like to kind of ease into our day, and that's what we like to have is like morning coffee or me warm water with lemon. I do my puzzle out front on our front porch, and we're blessed that the sun comes directly like onto our front porch, which is amazing. So wherever your house is oriented, make sure to get that morning sun.
I was thinking about the rhythm that we started doing in the morning, but then there's people that have nighttime jobs, right? And they have to be up during the night and awake during the night, and then they fall asleep during the day. No doubt about it, it is more challenging for those people, but in a second we'll talk about some things that you can do if that is your case. But in reality, we are designed as human beings to be awake when the sun is up, and we are meant to sleep when the sun is down. Summer times we have longer days. Maybe we stay up a little longer those times. Winter times, that kind of time that we need a little bit more rest and recuperation, so longer nights during that time. But when the sun comes up and we open up our eyes, your optic nerve, your eyes take in the light, the biophotons, the sun, and it activates a part of your hypothalamus to essentially trigger you that it is the start of your day. And then through those biological clocks, when the night starts coming down, when the sun starts coming down, that starts triggering your body that we're ready to sleep, which is then taking that serotonin and turning it into melatonin. So the morning time, what it really does is getting that morning sun, it activates you. Cool, I'm up, it's time to be active, it's time to do my day, and then it will actually get you set up perfectly for that evening time. And it's a great start to the day of a ritual as well.
Yes, and there's so many things like in our environment that are completely free and always available that I feel like have been discounted the past, like, I don't know, 100 years. And these are things that we need to like utilize. Like, these are things that are available every single day, all day, again, for free, that are going to tremendously impact our quality of life, but in particular, our sleep. And so 2 other things within like the day that you can begin just becoming more aware of and more mindful of is like movement. I love this. We always talk about these things before we record, just so we're on the same page and we can kind of jam and flow. But one of the things we were talking about is like tiring yourself out during the day so that you basically can dip right into sleep quickly. And I always look at kids, because we have young kids and it's just such an easy example. But if you have kids or you have kids in your life, you probably know the example of like, okay, we're going to take our kids to like the water park or maybe like the trampoline park, and they're going to get all of their energy out. And what does everyone always say? They're going to sleep so good tonight. Sleep so good. The same concepts apply to adults as well.
We're just big kids.
We're just big kids. We forget to move our body for so many different reasons, but moving our body during the day is so important for sleep at night.
Yeah, I mean, we did a 10K last week. We've gone climbing from AK. We're planning on a 5K. We went for a longer run, In those days that I personally have exhausted myself, it's almost like I don't have the energy to stay up. So not only is it a good, healthy routine for every other physiological function in your body for exercise, but that routine then creates that little bit of fatigue in the body that it's actually gets your body to just relax because it's time for cell regeneration. So it's actually a huge piece of it. And you've probably experienced it if you did any physical activity that was really strenuous over 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour earlier in the day, you're most likely are much more tired when it comes to the end of the day as well.
And so movement can come in all different shapes and forms as well. Like, it just doesn't have to be like running an 8K so that you sleep really well at night. We also don't want to exert our bodies, especially if we're in a state of more stress. Even something like gentle movements in yoga or just mindful movements in general, walking, those little things are going to help your cells to be in a place to be able to relax at night too. So just think of movement different. It doesn't have to be this one way of looking at it. Sometimes we trap ourselves in a box and then we don't want to do that because we only think about something one way. Think about movement as any way that your body is actually moving, like the actual word of it.
And I think the research actually does show that movement is important. Now, there's some people that again, have reverse schedules and they have to modify because it might be different for you, but getting your movement in earlier in the day versus later in the day, because when you do work out, it is causing this blood flow moving throughout your body, but you want to give yourself plenty of time before the evening time. So if you are someone that does struggle with sleep, working out earlier in the day is going to be better for your quality of sleep.
And this is also an opportunity always to tune into your body and your journey, and like the way that he moves is definitely, I would say the majority of the time, different than the way that I move. Some days I'm like, I actually need to move less or actually just have most of my day be restful because I need that. I'm processing. I just need to rest maybe the day before. So I think it's always important that even if we say you need to move every single day, there may be times when you actually probably shouldn't move. So don't get caught in the trap of just hearing something and then just go ahead and doing it. This is also like inviting you to like sync up to like your internal guidance system and for you to kind of tune into that. And that takes trial and error, and everything's an experiment. But I just always want to kind of have that little caveat of like, this advice is also catered to you also paying attention to what you need to do too. And again, trial and error. This is like 10 plus years of stuff that we've done. And sometimes it's like, yes, sometimes it's a no, but it's important to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're immune compromised, you've been run down. Yeah, you shouldn't be running a 10K on that day, but maybe 10 air squats and 10 push-ups, or
Yeah.
a little bit of stretching is exactly what you mean.
Or
So I
like
love
a
that,
heart opener or chest opener,
Yeah,
whatever
absolutely.
it may be.
Yeah.
And then another piece of that before we get into the rituals, which I'm really excited to get into, is just caffeine. I just wanted to really quickly touch on this because this is really important. So just not having caffeine past, I would say, ideally probably
2, 3
12,
p.m., yeah,
but
yeah.
I would say 3 p.m. at the latest. That's just going to stimulate your body in a way that's really hard to come down from that when it is time to go into sleep. So it's just something to be mindful of. And caffeine is not bad. This is a whole other conversation. I think that is for another day. But just to mention that if you're having like 7 cups of coffee a day and it's not keeping you awake, maybe it's time for a break. I think that's like the thing that I've done many breaks from caffeine, and it kind of reset my adrenals to where when I did have it, I actually felt that level of alertness. That's why people are drinking coffee to begin with. But just something to just kind of a little side note that I want to kind of talk about.
Yeah, for a long time, I actually felt like I wasn't affected by caffeine as much, and then I was actually playing with staying up a little later. So I would have coffee at maybe like 4 or 5 o'clock, and then I went to bed maybe say 11 something. I was like, damn, like I'm not getting to sleep right now. So I meditated, I just sat with it, but I can definitely feel that. I think the research shows 6 hours minimum before you are about to attempt to go to sleep, you need to cut off all caffeine, or it's going to be very challenging for your system to drop into that parasympathetic state, that theta and delta brain state that's truly healing in the body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into rituals, which I'm really excited about. We've been doing stuff like this for years, and you just put words around it.
Which, by the way, all these rituals originally came from Monica. I didn't necessarily set these up, and now that we have them in our life, I love them so much. It might not be your thing to set up all these things in perfect organization. You don't have to, but little things here and there, they just start to add up as well.
I also want to say, before I get into the rituals, that Matt is a night owl. So I just want to call it out and say that our sleep schedules a lot of times are different. So these things can be used for someone who loves to maybe stay up a little later than you should, in air quotes.
You should, yeah. Which, by the way, let's talk about when should you, how much should you get. Everyone is unique and everyone is different. There's also different times and seasons where you may need more sleep and you may need less sleep. You're processing a lot, you're going to need a little bit more sleep.
Also in the winter when it's darker longer is usually when people are sleeping longer.
Absolutely, and again, that's being tuned into the rhythms of those things. But the one thing I wanted to say, one of the most important things, we actually got this from Dr. Andrew Huberman, is that in his research showing that whatever time you typically go to sleep, one of the best things you could do is continuously, even on the weekends, go to sleep at that same time, because that'll allow the rhythms to actually, whatever your rhythm is, to find that rhythm. So it's not some people need to go to bed at 8 o'clock. Some people don't need to go to bed at 12, but they want to go to bed at 12, right? Maybe they want to do stuff. And they can still go to bed at 12 o'clock and have 7 hours of sleep and wake up at 7 o'clock. So actually one of the most important things is finding that rhythm for you and staying as consistent as you can in that. That's actually a huge piece of rituals as well.
And I think like having that gray area of like, it's not just like you need 6 to 9 hours of sleep and you have to go to bed at 8:30 p.m. every single night for it to be optimal. I think that just creates so much like restriction that it doesn't feel good. So like, and we've like explored this for years because he likes to, especially having kids, like they go to bed and then that's the time that he gets to himself or that we get to each other. So like really enjoying that and like appreciating that time and not feeling guilty about it, I think is really important. And how you feel the next day, of course, is the meter of that for sure. But I think the gray area is something to really explore, not be so like black and white with things. And that comes with time. And again, trial and error. Like I always want to invite people to like have those experiments in their own life. Like everything is that. And we have to play with that.
Trial and error. And we talk about the 80% rule, right? 80-20, like
always,
80% do your best. And then there'll be times like, oh yeah, it was an event and we needed to stay out late. Or the kids maybe were sick, or we were sick and we didn't get quality sleep. It's again, doing these things over time. There's going to be some days that are on and some days that are not. Just continuing to do your best. That's going to continue moving the progress forward. So let's talk about the rituals. And you think about rituals, it's 6, 7, 8 o'clock. We're ready for bed. We're getting the kids ready. What's the first couple things that you want to focus on? What are you doing in the background that I don't see you doing?
Right. So with the rituals, to me, it's like I want to create this environment that is conducive for like restorative amazing sleep. So that's in my mind what I'm thinking of. And something that we've always done is that we don't have bright lights on in our house at night. Everyone who comes over to our house,
So
our
dark in
family,
here.
they like laugh at us at first. And then once you kind of get acclimated to that low light, which is mimicking the sun going down, like this is like being in rhythm with the day, like it's the day in your house basically, that's allowing that melatonin to naturally become increased, which is conducive for sleep. So for us, we don't have bright lights. Like all of our lights are set on dimmers, or we don't even have some lights on at all at night because it's so stimulating. Like when we go to other people's houses that have bright lights, which is most people because they don't know these concepts that can really support their bodies, it's extremely hard to even look at once you have not done that. So that's like the first thing is low light. So like using dimmers, maybe not even using some lights, like things like lamps. I mean, back in the day, people did candles and like fires. Like that is really where we came from, and we've gotten away from that. And again, we wonder why our depression rates, our anxiety rates, our sleep levels are so out of whack. These tiny concepts that we've kind of like let go of really, really do matter.
So there's the light from the house and stimulating that rhythm. It's nighttime, let's go melatonin, it's ready time for bed, we're gonna get some good deep rest. But full transparency, we have these things called smartphones and TVs, and me and Monica and my family and our family, we utilize those things sometimes. Like we're in a season right now that in the evening time, we get the kids and we like to watch a show or a movie to wind down the day, and then eventually we put them to bed. A big piece of it though is that 99.9% of the time, unless our daughter or son breaks it, we are wearing our blue light blocking glasses because these screens have blue light that stimulate the daytime, just like the sun, like we're awake, these blue lights are stimulating you to be aware and awake. So when we go watch a movie or watch something at nighttime, we're making sure to wear those blue light blockers to actually prevent that blue light to entering our eyeballs, to telling our hypothalamus and our brain that it's daytime. So that's actually a really important thing that we recommend to everyone. And it's been like talked about, I think, for quite a while, but it's actually quite significant in setting up a good routine to allow your body to really fall asleep. Unless you're completely going no TV, which is awesome and great, but the reality is most people are probably not doing that.
And we don't watch much TV during the day. Like when we do, it is at night. So that, like you said, those blue light blockers were like, our kids know, like we got to get our glasses. Like that's really, really important to us. So just being mindful of your devices at night, especially, like that's what's going to allow that cortisol to still be increased when it should be decreased. And then that's messing with melatonin for sleep later. So like these little things matter. So blue light blockers.
And I actually do want to say something about that because I think this is important. The phone versus like a bigger TV, especially in the evening time. There's a lot of people in the world today that they got a phone and it's awesome, and they just like kind of just watch their stuff on here and have a lot of screen time there. Love it or hate it, that's the reality of the world. The only problem is that a phone, when it's right here, your eyes are actually converging and they're actually they're constricting to see closer to you. When that constricts, it actually is creating a sympathetic response in your body. But when your eyes are more dilated and more open, like there's the TV's in a distance or it's a bigger screen, that's actually creating more of a parasympathetic response. So if you're going to watch something, use a blue light blocker, and also if you can use a bigger screen farther away, that's going to be better for your nervous system as well.
That's like huge. And parasympathetic, the phrase that people say is rest and digest. So it's so important for sleep, but also digestion. And also with the zoomed in, I just want to really quickly say this is really important for people who have like, especially things like depression. With depression, you're so focused on the problem that even if when you're going walking and you look into the distance and like have vistas that you see, or just even looking far ahead of you, it just gets your brain out of that state of focusing on the problem, and it allows you to kind of unwind that pattern to open up to something different. So just playing with that throughout your day is really important. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's like really, really big. And then another thing that we do is we use things like blackout curtains. So again, just to kind of go back to the low lighting, that is really important. In our bedroom, we have the blackout curtains so that our room is basically completely dark and we don't have electronics in our room. Even things like alarm clocks by your bed, which is something that people have done for, I don't know, decades, that actually emits a lot of EMFs, which mess with our brain, messes with our melatonin and our sleep rhythm. to where we don't need that. So actually we have our phones in our bed or in our bathroom outside of our bedroom, so that if we do need our alarm, we still hear it. But we don't have it by our bed, so that maybe the phone rings or a text message or even just the EMFs emitted from that are going to interrupt our sleep. Like our sleep environment is like top notch and really, really important in our family, and it becomes more important, I feel like, the more time we have.
Yeah, getting your phone out of your bedroom, even if it's just outside the door, and turning your Wi-Fi off at night. If you're not doing that, do that first and just see how sleep patterns change, because also too, it's almost a psychological thing. Your phone is there and you're almost like waiting or listening because your biology is so used to the day, a text message, an Instagram post, a notification,
Yeah,
right?
that's really good.
So it's like right there.
Yeah.
If you can remove it, it's out of the field, and you can actually allow your body both consciously and subconsciously to really just relax, because we don't have to worry about any of those notifications. So I typically put it on airplane mode so I don't get any notifications, and then put it outside of the room. And if I really have to wake up, make sure I wake up early enough, I put it a little bit closer to the room, right outside the door, and turn the volume all the way up on the
volume all the way up, because we also have a sound
Do
machine.
remember to do that.
Which is not a necessity. It's just something that we prefer to have some sort of sound in the background. That way, like, it's a neutral sound. So the other thing that we also do as we are winding down, and again, like, these are things that usually around like 6, 7, going into 8 p.m. is when I'm thinking about these things that I just kind of subconsciously do at this point. But I'm also turning the temperature down in our house. There's so much research on you sleep better in a colder environment. Like, this is all starting to come out now. This is something we've known for a really long time. And it's not just about having your temperature low in the house, but it's also some things that you can do to lower your body temperature before sleep as well, which I know you like to talk about.
Sub 68 degrees is recommended. So,
and every house is different. Like, our house is 1911.
we got to set it at like 64,
leaky,
65.
So it's a little different than a newer house. Yeah, we're like at 65, which is probably 68 in someone else's house.
Sometimes like we go to a house in Florida and it was like 70 degrees in there and it was freezing, like it was 60 in our house.
1911.
So just make it cold, because you do sleep more optimally when you are in that colder state. I'm thinking about the show we're watching where people are cryogenically frozen and they're just asleep, because it slows everything down, slows the heart rate down, slows that all down. So you're going to get into deeper sleep within that. And then some tips that you can do. Yes, you want to be in that cold environment because you want your core temperature to lower. Just like in the day, you want your core temperature to be higher. It helps your metabolism, helps your energy levels and all that stuff, increases the blood flow in your body. But things that you can actually do is right before bed, this is like something that if you're having trouble falling asleep to maybe start utilizing, is actually heating up your body. So a simple way is taking a hot shower before bed. Infrared saunas is another really great way if you have that ability to do that right before the evening time. And or we use a biomat, which actually releases heat, and then there's crystals in there, and it's a very healing process that we can be on for 30, 45 minutes. But by doing that, you actually first increase your core temperature, and whatever goes up must come down. So instead of being at a baseline and just hopefully your core temperature starts slowing, you actually heat up your body, and through that hormetic response, you actually get a rebound into lowering your temperature even faster. So tons of really great research about heating your body up before bed to facilitate that lowering and cooling of your system.
And I think the deeper thing also behind taking a shower at night is that people want to kind of cleanse the day, which I love that. That way you're going into your next day like just renewed, which is really what we're wanting. So even thinking about things just deeper and more intentionally. So like, yes, a shower at night is going to allow your core temp to drop, but also like, let's like wash ourselves from the day, I think is really important. Again, we're processing at night, so we're processing and washing away. You were even telling me about like our brain, how it like sheds old things at night. Like that's really what it's doing, is like things you no longer need to hold on to. If your brain's like, okay, we're going to get rid of this at night and we're going to deepen these patterns. Like that's really, like everything is super intentional. So I just love all the meaning behind it all.
Yeah, the neurological pruning, which is like the getting rid of things that you don't need, and then the neurological strengthening are things that you are focusing on doing to actually strengthen that neural circuitry. That all happens when we're in a deep state of rest and sleep, especially in those theta delta brain states.
Then another thing that I do is, and this is, at this point, this is every night. And I used to do it, what?
No, I was going to laugh because we're about to get ready to watch our show. Our son, Rocky's like, all right, Mom, go do your stuff. And it includes, washing her face, brushing her teeth, and then...
No, it's washing my face and doing the diffuser and getting night-night tea. These are the things
yeah.
that he knows that we cannot watch the show until Mommy does this.
Go and do this.
But it's so funny that it's become like our kids know these things, and I love that. It's so important to me. So something I do every night, and I used to not do this every night, but now at this point, I just feel it feels so good for our sleep and just our family that I diffuse essential oils every single night, which is kind of, it's a step, I don't know, it's a little extra, but for me, I like that, and I feel like it really enhances our sleep. Like, essential oils are amazing. It's like a direct route to your brain to relax everything, like vasodilation, like balancing hormones. So to be breathing that in constantly throughout the night because it's filling the room, it's just, to me, like encasing us in this like bubble at night where it's just like everything's conducive for optimal sleep. Like, I really feel that. We also put essential oils on our kids' feet at night. All of our feet. That's really important. So the feet, there's a mapping of like all the organs on the bottom of the feet. The feet are also very vascular. So putting it there can go into the body faster. Same with hands. Also ears have a mapping as well. But so we put them on feet, and it's just this ritual of also winding down, which who doesn't love their feet rubbed? But that's really a piece of it is essential oils. I've been using essential oils for like 16 years now, and it's just, they're from the earth, and it just feels true that they're so synergistic with our body with no side effects. They work with us to support us, and I just love every piece of that.
And some of your favorites are lavender.
Lavender's like just the easiest one to start with at night. Like, lavender is great. You can do blends, and
valerian
also like
and
valerian.
Vetiver.
Yeah, valerian, vetiver, but just if you've never done anything, start with a high quality lavender, diffusing at night, or even putting it on your feet with a carrier oil. Start there, like just see how you feel. Maybe even putting a little bit on your pillow, that way you're like breathing it in throughout the night is great. Also, a piece of this that I also want to speak to is using like clean laundry detergent and things like organic sheets, organic mattresses, organic pillows, because whatever you're sleeping on at night, you're constantly breathing in. Even if you don't smell it, it becomes subconscious because you become acclimated to whatever smell you're basically smelling all the time. So like if you're sleeping on pillowcases that have been washed in a lot of fragrance and chemicals that aren't supportive for our body's vitality, we're breathing that in all the time, and we're having to process that, right? Like, we want to process our day. We want our brain to be able to detox those glial cells, that shedding that he's talking about. Like, we want our body to do those core essential things. We don't want to have to process excess things that make it harder. So just using like free and clear things, like just be super easy, unscented fragrance or unscented laundry detergent. So you're not breathing excess things in is really important. Step 2C would be organic mattress, organic pillows, organic sheets, and things like that. But that's not as important as like the fragrances, I would say.
One step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time. And then the last thing I want to go over, I think you might have something else to go over, and these are additives. So it's not the end all be all, like he said earlier. Like, you're not going to do one of these things and then maybe your sleep is radically changed. I mean, maybe, but these are all things that are just consistent things to begin implementing these habits, these rituals every single day. So we do magnesium every single night. It's this ritual. We call it our night-night tea. Our kids love it. We get all our supplements from either REV here, but they're also from Nutrition World. If you guys are local, you can also order online. But magnesium is like just this essential thing that our body needs for so many chemical processes in the body. Like, it does so many things. And so it also relaxes the muscles, or relaxes the body. So we just have it, it's like a yummy flavor, a clean flavor, and our kids love it. We enjoy it. So I get night-night tea, Mommy washes her face and puts the diffuser on. That's just really what we do. But
I wash my face later.
He doesn't really, and that's okay. And that's okay. Another thing is like things like tart cherry. Fish oil is really good. If you do take fish oil, take it before bedtime. Like, it's one of the best things for inflammation in the brain. It is just amazing for that. So the timing of certain things matter. So having that before bed is something to really, really play with. That's changed my sleep to allow my brain to get into that state faster.
Yeah, I think, and I just, as we talk about it, I realize that we've done so much over the years that it actually sounds quite overwhelming, all the things that we are doing. And again, start with one, then add some other things. But it's just, again, waking up in the morning and being intentional, getting that morning sun, whether that's for other physiological health functions or actually just sleep. It's all one and the same, I really think. And then starting that routine for yourself to just set that intention, like I want good quality sleep. And that's one thing I think that many people that have trouble sleeping is that they just wait until it's bedtime, and then they starts that nervous system starts getting activated, like they're getting ready for sleep, they're nervous, they're not going to fall asleep, which then causes more cortisol and adrenaline in their body. So I do want to just address just two pieces that of this if you're not able to sleep. And the first one is if you're unable to fall asleep. Yes, you want to get rid of all your phones and all of the Wi-Fi, but maybe you're someone that's having a little bit of trouble actually falling asleep. I personally find that sometimes using a guided meditation on YouTube with some affirmations or listening to some music and putting on a black screen on either the TV or on your phone, and then making sure that the light isn't showing.
You
can also, or headphones, yeah. But what I would also do is you can even download it from YouTube or whatever, so that way you're not using Wi-Fi or anything else to actually be able to watch it. And utilizing that to listen to affirmations or listen to something to put you to bed. That's going to bed, because it's sometimes as you get in your own mind a little bit, and I've had experiences maybe where I had caffeine and I was up a little late, and it's just the mind goes over and over again. I'm a person that's never necessarily had huge issues with sleep, but I have noticed that whenever I'm maybe not falling asleep right away, the mind is just going. So doing something to maybe take your mind off of your thoughts and receiving information actually can drop you into a deeper relaxed state. And there's many different avenues. We're actually creating more things through REV to actually share with people on YouTube that'll actually help with sleep and pain and different meditations. So those will be out in the coming weeks. And then when it comes to maybe if you are not getting quality sleep, or maybe you wake up in the middle of the night, or even if you're having trouble going to sleep, I think people get caught in that loop, right? That I'm not sleeping, so it just keeps getting worse and worse. And we have worked with people that it's an up and down roller coaster ride. But what I will share with you is that there's a lot of research actually coming out now that things like meditation and what's called NSDR, non-sleep deep relaxation techniques, which is essentially just meditation, right? It's laying there, focusing on your breath. Those are actually showing that doing those things help get you into that theta and delta brain state, which is your subconscious, which then facilitates all of that healing in the brain, the glial cells releasing toxins, allowing your parasympathetic response to happen. So even if this is just my message to try to not console people, but to help and support people that are struggling with it. Even if you don't fall asleep, there are ways that you can actually get the benefits of sleeping without technically falling asleep. So if you are having trouble, doing your best to just for the next 6 hours, and I guarantee most of the time it won't take you 6 hours, 7 hours, just focus on your breathing. Do box breathing. Do long 5-6 seconds inhales and 6-7 second exhales. Keep doing that and really get into that deep state, and you'll actually find, I've shared this with people, they're like, I didn't sleep last night, but I actually felt really good through this meditation that I did, and I actually feel energized. It's actually ways that you can work around while you're working on getting better quality sleep. I think that's just the mental shift of knowing like, okay, I can actually just use this time as a really long meditation process.
No, I really love that. It's great advice. And I'm someone who we're still co-sleeping. I breastfed my babies in bed. So I've had interrupted sleep for seven years, I would say. And so within those times of I'm up, I'm nursing. Sometimes I was nursing when I was even asleep. But within those times of when I was up and going back to bed, and I'm with the vision of like eventually my goal is to have deep restorative sleep every night. Is that realistic? Maybe not, because our day, different things are going to happen and our sleep is going to be affected by that and shifted by that. And that's okay within those times that maybe we are interrupted a little bit. That's what I do. I meditate in bed, and I just calm my body and I focus my mind, and that allows me to get back to sleep faster with the vision of like, this is not forever. I think we feel, some people feel that working with so many people with sleep issues, it's like, oh, it's happening again. Like it's going to keep happening. Ooh, let's interrupt the pattern. Let's have the vision of where we're going. But in those moments that's really what matters to like slow down that pattern, is to be meditating, is to be deep breathing, maybe listening to some Hertz frequencies or some meditation that you found online, that Rev's cool YouTubes that are out there. That's what I'd recommend. Yeah. Those little things matter. So in those moments is how you respond to things really, really matter for what's coming.
Yeah. Beautiful conversation.
And this is a lot of information, and it would be a disservice for us not to share all of these things that we have learned. So my advice is that whatever is kind of piquing your interest of what we said, follow that. Don't feel like you have to do every single thing that we said tonight or tomorrow. Let's be in the gray area and give yourself some freedom. But whatever excited you and interested you, do that first, and then watch this video again and again and find the other things to implement later once you've established those habits to begin, cultivating that beautiful sleep that is so there for you. And the ultimate thing that we shared also is like regulation and integration of your nervous system. These little things like the magnesium, essential oils, lowering the body temperature, all those things are going to be great, but ultimately if your nervous system is dysregulated, it's not going to be what you're looking for. Like, we really need both. So we really need healing, integration, processing of all the things that have been stored within our system that are causing that out of whackness with our sleep cycles. And then from there, all those little tips and rituals are going to just be like icing on the cake essentially for it.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece is finding your rhythm that works for you, creating that, and just like anything else in life, wherever attention goes, energy flows and change can occur. So just as long as you're putting that intention, like I'm working on becoming a better sleeper and getting more quality sleep because it's just gonna help every other aspect of my life. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, but just keep making those small 1% shifts and changes, and it'll happen. It'll definitely start shifting.
It will happen, and we look forward to hearing all of your sleep success stories and just giving us feedback on this. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you found value in this video, please like, share, and subscribe to us, and we'll see you next time.